Some people have had some questions about how you should import Paint 3D models with my Paint 3D shader. So, as a new version has released, I have decided I should probably also make a tutorial now that model importing is significantly better. Color-wise, at least. So, the first thing you want to do is open a new scene, and now that you've got this new scene, you want to immediately delete everything in that scene, and then go to File, Import, GLB, or it says GTL, GLTF, but in brackets GLB/GLTF, because the important one here is GLB, because if you're importing a file, you need to have it saved as a .glb rather than a Paint3D file. Here it is. Here it is. I want to open sam.glb, which is a model of Silly, created by Lancy, given to me by TechEvent. Thank you, TechEvent. And if this thing at the top is the render mode, and if you're wondering what I use to rotate the camera, I use middle click, or rather middle hold, to do that. If you're on a laptop and don't have access to that, you can use this thing at the top. And, well, I may as well also say you use shift and hold down middle click to move the camera, and then you use the scroll wheel to zoom. Now, if you move the camera and then want to unmove the camera, like I've just done, you can do align view, center view to cursor. If this, like, you know, this red and white thing, if that is outside of the, if that is not at the origin, you're gonna need to do align view, center cursor, and frame all, and then go center view to cursor. But anyway, back to this. Now that you've got the model in here, what you're going to want to do, you don't have to do this, but what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to do parent, clear, and keep transformation. What this does is there's a lot of weird subcategory things that end up happening due to there's a lot of weird parent-child things that end up happening due to the fact that Paint 3D uses that to handle groups, which is good for Paint 3D, but bad here because, ew, empties. Anyway, now that I've done that, what you're gonna see at the bottom, you see there's a bunch of things here. Press click to select one, and then shift click to select, like on the bottom one, to select everything down there. And now you're going to want to delete. And okay, now that's done, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to figure out where you've located your Paint 3D shader and extract it from the zip, as I've already done. If you're using an older version of Blender, you're going to need to use the Blender 3 version instead, but that is not me, and in all likelihood that is not you either. So as a result, I'm gonna drag this over here, make sure not to move your mouse too much, because if you do it disappears. And then you're gonna want to do append, go to node tree, and import the Paint 3D matcap thing here. And then you press append, and nothing has changed. But it has, you just can't see it. So what you're gonna want to do now is click on just any of the pieces for your first one. I would recommend picking one in which there's a lot of other objects that also have that same color. That only has a benefit if your model includes a lot of untextured bits in it. And by untextured, I mean like you haven't drawn in it. So each object is just like a solid color. In situations like that, select the object that just happened, like one of the objects that has the most common color, and then you're gonna want to go to the shading thing up the top here. But in here now, what you're gonna want to do is, like, same things work in here as work in the 3D view, just with the difference middle click doesn't rotate it because it's not in the 3D. Instead, it just moves it. But now what you want to do is, like, if you look here, this thing says diffuse. You're going to want to remove anything on here that isn't diffuse, unless you use it, unless this is transparent, like these things up here, but we're going to get to that when we get to that. So if you just drag this straight in here, you're just going to see that's the color. But now this is what the thing we did earlier did. Now if you go to add, go to group, you can see Paint 3D Madcap, and you just want to drag this here. And now this has the Paint 3D shader on it. Now you'll notice it doesn't look right yet, but that's something we'll sort once we're done putting this on everything. And the good thing about picking this, which has the same color as everything else, well, not everything else, but a lot of the other things, is now I'm just going to call this green over here for convenience. And now what you can do is every other thing that has that same color and no texture on it, you can put the same material on it and have it sorted without having to go through all that work. And the file size will be smaller if you do it this way rather than manually doing it for every material, even duplicates. I'm using the scroll wheel to do this, selecting this. This just controls what material it is. And now I might just skip to when this is done. Green, 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 green. Okay, that is me done with all of the greens. And now I'm going to do the same thing with the pinks, where I pick one of the objects that is pink, delete everything but this diffuse, and then go to the group, Paint 3D Madcap, and this time, this is another way of doing it. Instead of just dragging this to here and putting it in between, you can also drag this here and then drag this here to achieve the same thing. And now I'm going to rename this to pink so I can see it among the list of materials. And then I want to make all of these pink. Pink. And now that I've done that bit, I also want to do this texture. You should just do the same method as you did with the other one. Despite the fact it's got a texture, you still use the same method. So if I go here, here, put it in there, and suddenly it looks right. And with this, I do the same thing, where I delete this. Remember not to forget to select all the blacks, because blacks could actually be the least accurate without the Paint 3D shader, and also they're really easy to forget. Ask me how I know. So now for the first two bits of the hat, you can just do the same thing where you get the group, put it in, put this in here, do the same here, where you get the group, put it in, delete, put this in here, put this in here. I don't know why I did that, I've just duplicated materials. I want to rename this to white, and I'm gonna make this... That is the wrong object. I want to make this have the same white material just for consistency's sake. And now I need to do the stickman. Remember what I was talking about earlier about transparency? This is going to be ever so slightly different. So instead of deleting everything but the diffuse, what you're going to want to do here is delete both the, delete these, and then leave this and the diffuse. And then what you can do, Paint 3D Madcap, and then drag the color in here, and you have the Madcap thing in here. And how this has been set up for this, and I'm like, and because these stickmen are all different, you can't just copy that over. So I'm gonna drag this here, delete this, do this, drag this here, move this just as this. You can just get away with not moving them, but I think it looks better here if you do it that way. And now there is in and I've now this model is in theory fully imported. Okay, in editing I have realized I've completely forgotten to go over something. So this model doesn't really have it, but if you have a model that uses other materials, or if you want to use another effect, then you want to go to here in any of these that has that side view. You can just go here and then adjust material here, and then that affects the material of this. If you're wondering why these two intermerge, this is an alternate version of the model because I didn't save the other one. But you drag this to change the material. 0 is custom, 1 is diffuse, 2 is the gloss. Is that glossy? Yeah, that's glossy. 3 is dull metal, 4 is polished metal. And effect does like the paint 3D effect you wanted to have. Like this one's the night one, I think. You're gonna have to, like, if you want everything to have the same effect, you're probably gonna want to set this. You're gonna want to set this in the same one to everything, but most people just want it at 0 anyway, so that's why that's the default. But anyway, back to no, I want to string. But you might notice these colors don't look right, and no, they don't, because they're not right at the moment. If you want this to have actual right colors, I don't know why I scrolled there, yet again, fiddling. But if you want to give this the right colors, what you need to do is you need to go here, go to the bottom of this color management and change it from AGX. In older versions of Blender, it used to go to Filmic, but AGX is like some newer, probably more realistic thing they have. And now the one you want to change it to is standard, because this is what Paint 3D uses. And the way that these images were taken, this is now, in theory, you could just add it here because this looks right, but if you want to make it more accurate, you can set film size to 1 instead of, like, you're barely going to be able to tell a difference here, but I swear this is, like, the anti-aliasing is slightly more accurate if you put it to 1 instead of 1.5. But certain people, me included, would say it looks better, even if it's less accurate, if you put filter size 0 instead, because it just removes the anti-aliasing entirely, which, when you're rendering, makes it, like, if you're gonna dither it afterward, now that that's done, if you're already in the film thing, you may as well also make it transparent. That's basically a requirement. If all you want to do is just import the model and then just take a render of it, and then you're done, then all you need to do is just add a camera through that thing that I just accessed, and the default rotation here makes sure not to like do anything that's like rotated here or something like that, because that gets rid of the menu. But once you've added the camera, you're gonna want to do 90 0 0, set this to 180. Actually, don't set that to 180. I lied to you. And put this like around here. And make sure for, like, if you want to make this Paint 3D rendering, you should probably go to orthographic and then just lower the scale till it looks about right. And while you're at it, if you go to, like, by the way, you should probably pay attention to specifics, like, and then if you go to render here, not render, and then if you go to the output here, just pick any resolution. It doesn't really matter, or it does matter really, but like, just pick something that looks about right. This bit is also just as whatever looks about right as it probably is in Paint 3D. I guess it's just whatever resolution it ends up getting screenshotted at, now that I think about it, or copied at. I don't know how. Look, even though I made the Paint 3D shader, I don't really know how Paint 3D works past like how to make a bunch of spheres, which is all I really needed to do to get the make the Paint 3D shader. Anyway, now if I am to render an image, if you look at this, this is what it looks like. It's Paint 3D, so it's got the like. This is what I was talking about with the anti-aliasing being better. If you put filter size to 0, if you put this to 1, these would be like proper smooth line transitions. But if you're gonna do dithering, you should probably do it this way instead. And if you oh yeah, another thing I forgot to mention. After you're done with everything with importing, you probably want to go to Orphan Data up here, which is like there, and then just press purge and let it do that. That reduces the file size and clears up this to remove anything that isn't used. But yeah, from here you can just save this, and now that this is where some people would end it, and this is where I'm going to end this video, because although there is more to be done if you wanted to animate it, a lot of that is a lot more general Blender stuff, and also this would just be so long if I also included that. So for now I'm going to leave it here and say bye bye.